What do you feel when you lie down to go to bed at night and you hear 40, 50,000 people screaming after a goal is made?
Infelizmente, a injustiça, ela é nossa companheira. Então, nós nos sentimos desrespeitados e injustiçados, porque só o que nós queremos é fazer um lugar para que nós possamos educar os brasileiros, educar as pessoas sobre a história e a cultura indígena.
A displaced Arawak Indian, an 80,000-seat soccer stadium, and this dilapidated building crumbling in its shadow. The unlikely fates of all three have been brought together by this. Rio's 2016 Summer Olympic Games.
Era maravilhoso porque nós estávamos com um centro cultural e com uma universidade. Então, nós fazíamos comida culinária indígena para as pessoas que queriam vir visitar.
A stone's throw from Rio's world-famous Maracanã Stadium, Arawak activist Micael Oliveiras takes me into the crumbling structure. This was once Latin America's first and only indigenous museum.
É muito triste, ainda mais que ela era rica. Tenho foto disso aqui tudo montado quando era o Museu do Índio.
Oliveiras and a small group of Indians got booted from the site when Rio won its bid to host the Olympics in 2009. The city said the museum could stay, but exhibitions would change from indigenous cultures to soccer. But the Indians resisted setting up this camp. They've been locked in a standoff since. The soccer museum never got off the ground. The building remains derelict. For many, this symbolizes Rio's Olympics legacy. Heightened tensions between the government and Brazil's downtrodden, half-finished, ill-conceived projects, and worse. When Rio bid for the Games, it promised people lots of things, that the Olympics would lead to better housing, better public transportation, a cleaner environment, safer streets, and that all the cool, new, and improved sports facilities would open to ordinary folks afterwards. A year later, not one of those goals has been met, at least in a meaningful way. Take the privately built Ghost Complex, where the world's athletes were housed. These thousands of apartments were supposed to become luxury condos for Rio's well-to-do.
Empty, unfinished, and only about 10% of them sold.
Or the taxpayer-funded Olympic Park. It's just finally opened its gates to the public, but only on weekends. So far, these open-air acres of cement are hardly drawing crowds. The stadiums themselves stand empty. Local media have been blasting the city for months over this, but Rio's Olympics organizers say patience. Spokesman Mario Andrada says the games themselves were easy to pull off by comparison.
This is a far bigger, far more complex task in the sense that now we depend on funding and we depend on a series of connections within the government. So the heritage of the Olympic Park goes to the Minister of Sport in part and to the city of Rio in part. So both institutions have to learn how to deal with the huge area and a huge amount of venues that were designed for future use.
Costs have been another issue. Virtually all modern-day Olympics run over budget, but Rio's was a doozy. Take the Maracanã Stadium alone. Between the 2014 World Cup and last summer's Olympics, Brazil pumped more than $500 million into it. Contractors are under investigation for inflating costs and double billing for services.
We're heading into the world-famous Maracanã Stadium to see how it's holding up 1 year after the Olympics. Several months ago, there was a photo essay highlighting how destroyed the stadium was. Seats ripped out, looked like the place had been looted.
After the Games, this storied stadium was abandoned for 2 months. The ripped-out seats have been fixed. The burned-out grass is slowly growing back. But $500 million for a stadium that's now barely used? Critics say that money could have gone to pay the salaries of lots of doctors, teachers, and police, workers whose salaries have been cut since the Games. For months, citizens have been protesting government spending cuts. We caught wind of one.
Today's big protest has not materialized, but the police are not taking any chances.
This one is over the government's latest austerity measures, says Rio native Mauricio Campos.
Hoje é uma manifestação que é a continuidade dos protestos contra as reformas trabalhista previdenciária. Aumenta a idade mínima para aposentadoria. E, por outro lado, essa reforma da Previdência também aumenta o tempo de contribuição que cada trabalhador tem que dar para a Previdência para poder se aposentar.
The measure stings all the more, Campos says, given that the state shelled out some $8 billion total for the Olympics.
A realização das Olimpíadas aqui no Rio de Janeiro teria um efeito simbólico na imagem do país como um todo no exterior e também efeitos imediatos, ditos legados para a cidade do Rio de Janeiro. A maior parte dos equipamentos esportivos que foram montados para as Olimpíadas e que seriam transformados em equipamentos públicos, atualmente estão fechados.
Not only are most of the venues still closed, even reaching them has become harder, especially if you don't live downtown. For some neighborhoods, commutes can now take twice as long as before the games, despite the city laying some 165 kilometers of new fast lanes for buses. Guilherme Alves is a university student from Campo Grande, a huge suburb about 40 miles from downtown. Changes in busing to accommodate the Olympics have turned his 2-hour commute into 3.5 each way.
So now we'll take a 5-minute walk.
Okay, so this is the shortest part of the whole thing.
I think it is, yes.
How long is this leg of the trip?
15 minutes.
In total, how many changes do you do?
We took this bus, then we take another one, then we take the BRT, and then we take the subway.
The BRT are the fast lane buses, but the new lines only run from the airport to the wealthy neighborhood of Barra da Tijuca, where the Olympics were held, and where developers bet buckets of money on a post-games paradise. Real estate prices there rival those in Manhattan.
We won the bid, we got the Olympic Games, and they said, in 2016, everything will get awesome. In 2016, you will live in paradise. When 2016 arrives, you will be like a Sweden guy.
Wow.
But, well, we're just the same. Actually, we're even worse. The state of Rio de Janeiro is in bankruptcy.
One reason the state is nearly broke: oil. Oil was Rio's cash cow, and oil prices have tanked.
Are you ready?
Yep. What happens if you forget something at home?
I take it the other day. I remember someday I forgot a shoe. I had to buy another shoe.
And to bus number 3. It's been 2.5 hours.
Oh gosh.
What? We good?
No, we're not good. The original plan was to build the BRT lane back there between Campo Grande and Barra da Tijuca. But instead they decided to build it here in Barra da Tijuca.
Even though the need is greater where you live.
Yeah. Some TV stars and congressmen, businessmen, they used to live here. Actually, some congressmen now live in jail, but before jail, they used to live here.
Jail because of a corruption scandal in which nearly a third of federal lawmakers are implicated, including Brazil's current president. We're talking alleged kickbacks from Brazil's oil company, Petrobras, to politicians. This, on top of allegations of local corruption around the games themselves, has deepened the financial crisis and undercut what pride Cariocas felt while hosting last summer's games. Olympic Organizing Committee spokesman Andrada stresses investigations are still ongoing, but he says the writing's on the wall.
And if there was a lot of money involved with the politicians that were stealing money from Petrobras, chances are that they stole a lot of money from the games. So it's 1 + 1, say, well, it's gotta be 2.
Barra da Tijuca is where most of the fishy deals went down. Besides the sports venues, there are shopping centers and shiny new hotels. Andrada insists that's part of Rio's positive legacy.
We doubled the size of the city in terms of hotel rooms availability. So now Rio can accommodate more tourists, can receive more people, and it can be truthful to its DNA, which is to be a touristic city. So the transformation of the city is there.
But transformation implies losing something. For tens of thousands of people, it was their homes. In Vila Autódromo, a favela close to the Olympic Park, the government displaced some 700 families, among them Sandra Maria.
Foi no final de 2013, quando o Eduardo Paes, ele convocou uma reunião no Rio Centro e apresentou para essas pessoas um projeto de construção do Parque Olímpico. Aí mostrou um mapa da comunidade e com algumas áreas marcadas, dizendo que essas pessoas teriam que sair da realização do Parque Olímpico. O que a gente viu que foi uma grande mentira, né? Porque o Parque Olímpico é lá do outro lado e, na verdade, as áreas que foram removidas, olha aí, você vê que não foram utilizadas.
Actually, the city did convert part of it into a parking lot for one of the new luxury hotels.
There were houses here as well?
Era tudo casas, tudo casas. Eles cortaram cerca de 500 árvores aqui dentro.
A total of 20 families fought Rio tooth and nail to stay put. They won, got these modern little bungalows for free, close to where their old houses were. 20 families out of 700. And housing activists consider this a victory.
In all the criticisms of the games, which did you see as the fairest?
I don't, thinking, thanks to your question, I think the worst that happened with us is that security going so bad so quickly after this. You know, the possibility to lose the pacification mentality rather than project, it's a pity.
Pacification. It's a program started around the same time Rio was bidding for the Games. The city set up military police posts in the favelas, started disarming the drug gangs, making the neighborhoods safer. It was part of Rio's flagship promise in return for public support for the Olympics. Pacification had another element, community outreach, like this Muay Thai class here in Andarai. Military policeman Rafael Matos teaches the basics to some young guys who might otherwise take jobs with the gangs, said jobs possibly entailing shooting at him.
Em média, a gente trabalha com 70 jovens aí. Então, essa percepção ela é muito positiva, porque aqui, nesse local, os jovens tinham a polícia como inimigo. E hoje, com o projeto social de integração, tendo um policial dando aula para eles conseguem quebrar essa barreira de inimigo.
There have been incidents where the military police have been involved in shooting and killing people within the favelas and shootouts and so forth. Do your students ever come to class and ask you questions about that? And what do you say?
A comunicação é muito fácil, porque eles têm a oportunidade de ver de perto qual é o trabalho da polícia. Eles conseguem ver que a polícia não é inimigo.
Violence is way up in Rio since the Games. Murders, robberies, gunfire, especially in the favelas. While en route to one, we stumble upon a standoff in another.
Just stopped here in the favela called Alemão because this morning 4 people were killed in a shootout and confrontation with the police.
In a sign of just how commonplace this has become, I'm advised to log on to an app called Fogo Cruzado, or Crossfire,
which lets you know in real time, more or less, where any shootouts are happening in the Rio favelas, because we're hoping to go up into City of God to talk to some residents up there. This is sort of like the Waze app for Brazilian violence.
The app and our contacts assure us that today, City of God is calm. We meet up with an artist and community organizer named Hoki. This is City of God, a favela controlled by the Red Command, one of Brazil's largest drug gangs. Hoki says when the military police first came to, quote, pacify these streets, people welcomed them, but the peace was short-lived. Today, he says, residents prefer the vigilante justice of the criminals to that of the authorities.
And them, by here, the people that I was talking to you, they are always here.
Right, because they're here day and night. They know everybody. In a way,
they are us.
They're like your community police.
Yeah.
Or your neighbor who have big guns.
an example, you beating a kid, if you hit him, they will come in you and why do you did this, and take his attitude with you, you know. But the police don't really care about nothing. If something stole your house and take everything, you go in the UPP and they will say, oh, you, bro.
Or, Hockey says, they might just shoot you.
I have a friend 2 days ago, on Tuesday, that was getting in the community with his car, was driving his car, and the police come and just shot him.
Eu ouvi barulho de tiro e olhei no portão, era muita fumaça, muita fumaça. Quando a gente chegamos aqui, os policiais começaram a xingar a gente de tudo quanto era nome. A gente correu deles porque ele correu atrás. Quando eles correram atrás, a minha mãe parou e ficou em pânico. Eu puxei minha mãe. Quando eu puxei minha mãe, eles me deram um soco na cabeça.
Why on earth would the police punch you?
Aí eu vou falar que eu acho que eles fizeram uma coisa errada e ficaram com medo da gente ver que era morador inocente e eles ficaram com medo.
The victim, an air conditioner repairman named Cristiano, leaves behind a pregnant wife and 4 small kids. His mother-in-law says she got the call first.
Aí fui eu olhar para ver se o carro era. Quando eu chego lá, no carro, assim, me desesperei, que o carro era dele, eu vi uma escovinha, o qual meu neto tinha levado da minha casa no domingo, que eles passaram o dia inteiro aqui comigo. Aí assim, o mundo desabou.
Was he the main breadwinner in his family?
Ele estava montando o trailerzinho dele, entendeu? E destruiu a família da minha filha, a nossa família, porque destruiu a dela e destruiu a minha também, entendeu? Aí todo dia as crianças ficam perguntando, toda hora, quando meu pai vai vir? Estou com saudade do meu pai, quando meu pai vai vir?
What can you say to them?
Eu falo para eles que o pai deles está com o papai do céu, entendeu? Um dia a gente vai encontrar ele, que eu falo.
Só que a Polícia Militar no Rio de Janeiro já tem mais de 200 anos. E é mais de 200 anos esse erro sempre. E não é só essa história que vocês viram, é essa história que acontece todo dia morre alguém na comunidade, todo dia algum morador sofre uma repressão através dessa polícia militar. Acho que o certo seria o fim da polícia militar.
The MPs aren't going anywhere, but the pacification program just might. This same day, an unprecedented question from Brazil's Minister of Public Security was splashed across newspaper headlines. Has pacification failed?
That's it. Let's take the subway.
3.5 hours after leaving Campo Grande, we reach Alves' school.
Do I get an Olympic medal?
If this were an Olympic sport, you'd be a sure bet for gold.
Thank you.
Step up on the podium. First place for daily commuting, 4 hours or more.
In less than 3 hours, Alves will turn around and make the same trip home. On the way, he'll have plenty of time to ponder how the games changed his life and what hasn't changed. Sure, there are a lot of new buildings, hotels, sports complexes. But Brazil is in yet another storm of corruption and crisis. As the 1-year anniversary of the Olympics comes and goes, there's no sign yet that Rio's Olympic problems will be solved.